Welcome to Nothing But Nets. Got a lot of news to get into. I'm just going to recap the game real quick, and then we're going to get into the real news. There's not a ton to get into. The Nets look great for about three quarters, and then they end up losing by one after Cole Anthony hits a heartbreaking shot, or you jump for joy like my other two panelists when the Nets lost by one. They blow a 21-point third quarter lead. They had I think a 17-point lead with 7 minutes to go. Didn't score for the last seven. Didn't score a field goal in the last 7 minutes plus. Cam Thomas did return. They actually had two stretches in the game of at least 6 minutes without a field goal, which is almost unbelievable. But that's how bad this team is offensively. Cam Thomas came back and cooked. He became the first net since Orlando Woolridge, I believe, to have 25, 5, and 5 off the bench. He came in, his first shot he hit was a remarkable one-legged three as the shot clock expired. Really carried the team offensively, although Jalen Wilson gave you some productivity. I know LBL, John, you guys are joining me. You had some problems with the Yes Network and the telecast. Is that not right?
Unfortunately.
I watched on the NBA League Pass. What I had was fine, but yeah, you guys weren't the only ones who were unable to watch the game. The Nets absolutely disgraced themselves in the last 7 minutes, not unable to get a field goal, but still almost pulled it off because of a really dumb foul by Orlando. But either way, the Nets fall. I know that you guys are happy. First, let me just ask, John, LBL, guys, introduce yourself, tell me where they can find you. John, you go first.
Hey, Gary, LBL. Crazy Sunday, huh? Anybody wants to talk fun basketball with me, you can follow me on my Twitter at OS91413John. I've done work on the BNKY Hoop Show, Breezy's podcast, Dylan's BK Network Pod, and Gary's Nothing But Nets because I'm everything Brooklyn Nets John. Yeah, I didn't get to see the game, but I was definitely watching highlights and film. Cam Thomas was stupendous today, 25, 5, and 5. He actually had 6 assists and 6 rebounds, so he was 25, 6, and 6. Great night for him off the bench. I mean, 25 minutes, he dropped 25 points. He was just so great for them. Unfortunately, just didn't get the W like he probably wanted in his comeback. The rest of the team gave what they can give. Keon Johnson, another 40 points. I don't know what Keon is eating or drinking, man, but he's starting to feel the energy from Coach Jordy supporting him. And, yeah, just like you said, there was some lulls during this game, and unfortunately the Nets just couldn't figure them out. And at the end, the Magic just wanted the win way more than they did. And, after the Doe news today, there's definitely going to be another trade move coming on the horizon. That's for sure.
LBL, let me get to you. I know you had the same problem. That's blow a 17-point lead late in the game. Really embarrassed themselves. They couldn't even get a decent shot off. Cam obviously had to do it all by himself. They're setting the entire, battalion after him to go get him. And there's nothing else anyone can do. This is kind of what we expected, at least what I expected going into the season. And that's a far outperformed what I expected. Tell us where we can find you and, your thoughts on Cam Thomas coming back.
All right, so you can find me at LBL for Life 1 on X. I'm ranting all the time to other Nets fans. The same handle on Instagram, fan base, Spill, Blue Box, and Spout, and so Spoutable. So other than that, though, I would say with the Nets, yeah, I pretty much expected the same thing that Cam would just get the green light to shoot and to look good, and we'd still lose. But John, this just in from Jacques Vaughn. He said, but Cam only shot 33% from the field. Because Jacques Vaughn is
that was a good one, man.
He's a Cam hater. So, but with that said, though, I this is what Gary and I, we do agree with a lot of times. It's just, as much as everyone says, well, Jordy plays this guy because he's a Jordy guy. He defends well and this and that. It's like, it's hard to watch, especially with basketball the way it is now. This is harder to watch. Remember how they used to say those games between the bad boy Pistons and the Knicks, and they'd be like 90 to 87 or something like that.
Yeah, it'd be like 78, 81, 78. It'd be something like that.
Yeah, or especially the Mike Fratello games too, right? So, but these are these are even harder to watch because they're shooting and missing so many threes. You know what I mean? So these are like, so it's hard to watch Ben Simmons on the floor with Nick Claxton with a third or fourth non-scorer, and it's like, where's the offense going to come from? And it's like, you know, there's not that much ball movement in the world to say, oh no, this is fine, we're fine, we can carry two non-scorers on a team. You know, and that's the problem. That's part of the problem, that people really are. I think they're escalating Jordy to these heights, and I'm like, come on, man. That's what I was saying about, speaking of the recently fired Mike Brown. I was saying, well, the problem, everybody seems to be blaming, his failure either on Fox, which John did, or they say that what I was looking at is, they blame it on DeRozan. And I'm like, DeRozan is doing what he always did for 15 years in the league. He's averaging 20 on those little, short jumpers and running. But I'm saying, so he's averaging 20. Sabonis is having a great year, if you look at it. And then Fox is having a great year. But you cannot play Keegan Murray at the 4, and he's averaging 12 points, and he's not doing anything. Herder isn't doing anything. They're only getting 3 spots where actually guys are scoring.
Let me get in on this. Let me get to my we got a full panel now. We got a full house. I got Leaf. Leaf, introduce yourself. I was just recapping the game. I feel like the Nets embarrassed themselves there the last 5-6 minutes of that game. They didn't score for a field goal in the last 7+ minutes, blew a 17-point lead. Your thoughts on the game real quick and Cam Thomas's return. And introduce yourself. Tell them where they can find you.
It's Leaf 4788 on YouTube, Twitter. I need to get the hell off of Instagram. I'm sick and tired of that. Like I need to get off there, but you can find me on there as well. Leaf _ 4788 at on Instagram, and Leaf 4788 on playback.tv too. I do games on there. I'm trying to get everything going. Listen, Gary, I'm not angry. I'm not an angry man, but losses like this, like, it put me in a real foul, nasty mood. A real vicious, nasty mood, because later on, I'm gonna go on a podcast where Cam Thomas is gonna be heavily praised, and everything that he's not good at is gonna get ignored. That's where I'm gonna go. I don't know why I'm gonna go there. I'm gonna go there because obviously this is where my flag is.
Are we talking about our boy Breezy's podcast? Is that what we're talking about?
Listen,
we could call it Breezy. Yeah.
We could call it what we want to call it. Listen, I keep reiterating it. I keep saying it. We had the Bucks play down to us. We barely won that game, and we had Orlando play down to our competition, and we blew a 17-point lead, and we was up by as many as 21. There was no Suggs on the court for the entire second half. I don't know who the hell Caleb Houston is. I'm just finding out who Tristan Da Silva is, who was arguably the best player on the court tonight with 21, 6, and 7. That's what you want out of Ben Simmons most nights, but you ain't gonna get that out of him because Ben Simmons ain't getting no goddamn 20 points. So the reality is, Cam Thomas, as good as a scorer as he is and as good as a creator as he is, as the number one, it just doesn't work. And this is something that I keep telling people with the love fest for Cam Thomas. Cam Thomas, I'm going to repeat this for anybody that's going to hear me and holding on to the sound of my voice. There's no front office that is good enough to build a team where Cam Thomas is going to be your number one on a 50+ win team. It's never going to happen. And these years are going to go by, and we're going to keep saying Cam Thomas is only 23, Cam Thomas is only 24, Cam Thomas is only 25. And this is what I'm going to keep hearing. You're going to have, we have come to the point where we got to glorify something. And we figured, bro, like, yo, this is what it is. Cam Thomas looks the best on the court. We're going to have to glorify him, even though we lose games like this in disgusting fashion. Obviously
me ask you this
disgusting
question
match.
though. Look, this is horrible, and I feel everything that you're saying, right? Like I'm a Cam Thomas fan, but I recognize his weaknesses. I recognize that he's a blunt object. He does three things: he scores, and scores, and that's it. I get it. Like I don't push back on anything that you said, right? Like I think you can be two things. I think two things can be true. You can be a Cam Thomas fan and still be honest about his weaknesses. I think you can do both things, right? But they got Jalen Wilson, who was stroking it for a while, Keon Johnson, Ben Simmons, Nick Claxton on the court. Where do you want him to go with the ball? Who do you want to be shooting the ball down the stretch of the game?
Well, you want the ball in Cam Thomas's hands, obviously, but at the same time, I can't do it on this channel. I could go and do it somewhere else, but when you go back and look at the fourth quarter and see the ball denial on Cam Thomas by a KCP or by a Tristan da Silva, you start to realize that there's levels to scoring on better defenses. As you climb up the ladder, scoring on more and more elite defenses. And Cam Thomas can score, but his level of scoring on great defenses and better defenses, defensive strategies and defensive teams, it starts to get limited the more and more you watch against the better defensive teams. And Orlando is nothing short of the great defensive team.
Agreed.
Nothing short. And you've seen that tonight. And this is what I start to tell the Cam Thomas stands that like to put him up here when he's really down here. This is what you got to explain to him. There's levels to beating double teams. We've seen it over the years from the elite of the elites, like the Steph Currys, so you can't. So it's like the Steph Currys, like the Kyrie Irvings. So you can't tell me that he's just 6'2", because we've seen other 6'2" guys beat these type of defenses and get through and figure things out. The difference is once defenses start to figure out his moveset and his counters, his game starts to get limited and limited and limited and limited. And then when he cannot score, and then somebody's gonna go back to the stat sheet and look at the 6 assists and 6 rebounds and say, "See, look, Cam Thomas could do a little bit of everything." Really?
I'm clear on that. I know his assist numbers, his rebounds numbers are better this year, but I'm agreeing with you. I'm a fan of his. I'm going to defend him, but I agree with you. He does one thing. He scores the ball. You're right. And look, are there better scorers in the league than him? Yeah, there are. But there's less than 10. Like, there's not that many. There are better. He's not Steph. He's not Kyrie. Those guys are better scorers than him. But the list of better scorers than him is short.
I got a question for you.
Go ahead, LBL.
No, it's not.
The question is, would that change if he had, more offensively, like more offensive teammates? And so, like when Gary's saying that list of there's like 10 guys, do those 10 guys play with better offensive players than is Cam Thomas like the best scorer on an offensively challenged team? That's what I'm saying.
His point is
he might be, but if you're gonna say that, if we're gonna use that as the crutch, we got to look at who the other guys ahead of him came from. Once upon a time, Giannis was playing with who as the second best player. Once upon a time, Joker was out there without Jamal Murray, and he didn't have no problem getting stuff done. Once upon a time, Steph was out there without Kevin Durant or Klay Thompson, and he was out there getting stuff done. So the reality is that we can't keep using these, hey, look who he's playing with, or look at the roster excuses. The bottom line of what I'm trying to explain to people is that the future of a 50-win Nets team does not include Cam Thomas as your number one option. It never will happen.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I don't disagree with you. But what I am saying, and I'm just playing like devil's advocate for a moment to say that when you do go back and you look at Steph had some ordinary years. Like, he had some ordinary years until Klay, until Draymond started taking off. Like, even though, because remember when he was under Mark Jackson, he had some decent years, like where it was like 18 a game or 20 a game. He wasn't really the focal point of the offense. It was the whole motion offense that they had there. And so when I look at certain guys, I think you're right with what you're saying about the limitations of that there are levels to it. Like he being a 25-point scorer is not the same as some of the other 25-point scorers who we know that when they know they're going to get them the ball, they're going to score. Like I guess Gary and I, before we went on, we were talking about Carmelo Anthony, like just a pure scorer, or Kevin Durant. And then people seem to think, the stands that you're talking about seem to think that, based on just the statistics of his scoring, that Cam is at that level, and he's really not. But they
No, but
don't
you're
see it.
comparing him. Let me put it like he's not Carmelo Anthony. Like I'm 41. I can
No,
only name a handful of scorers I've ever seen in my life who are as good as Carmelo Anthony at putting the ball in the basket. Like, I mean, that's not actually he's not Carmelo Anthony, granted, but like McGrady, Durant, Kobe, like and Carmelo, like those are the best scorers I've seen in my 41 years, right? Like, I mean, is he on that level? Not even close.
Gary,
Of course not.
Why don't you do this? Why don't you do this? Why don't you look at the scorers? Because there's a lot of scorers around his size today in the last 10 years or whatever, and go look at the scorers from past. You could go from Allen Iverson all the way to Steph and everybody in between at that height. If you go look at everybody in between, there's a difference between averaging 25 points in the sub 500 team and averaging 25 points on a plus 500 team. It just hit different when you because the thing is, when we look at Jordan Poole who's close to averaging 24 points, we look at it and say, yo, somebody got to put up some numbers on a garbage team. Somebody got to put up something on a trash team, man. Why not be him? So when we look at the all of the 25-point scorers that was ever on teams as bad as the Nets, we don't pay them no mind. Why are we paying mind to Cam Thomas? You know
Can I
why?
say
Because
this?
we able to watch it more.
Leaf, can I just say this? I was one of the people last year that was criticizing Thomas a lot because I was worried that he was a one-dimensional scorer. Many people were looking past, his flaws, and I didn't want to invest in a guy that hasn't worked on them. And Thomas sometimes had this arrogance about him where it's like, I'm a great scorer. That's all I care about. But you know what I've seen so far this season when he's played? I've seen a more mature version of Thomas. I've seen a more focused version of Thomas. I think Coach Jordy and him have developed some type of bond. And Thomas seems to be following the game plan perfectly. He's not taking like 40 shots a game. He's doing his role. He's working on the defense. The rebounding has gotten much better. The assists have shown some improvement this season. I mean, 6 tonight. He had 5 in another game against the Cavs. Like, you've seen the improvements, and that's what I want to see from Thomas this year. You're in a contract year. Don't focus on having to be the best person on a crappy team. Focus on being the best version of yourself. And I think we've seen that so far. Now, my worry is with Marks, until we get through the deadline, does he still feel like Thomas could be a part of this team? I don't know for certain until we get to that deadline. If we get to that deadline and Thomas is still on this team, he's likely to get a contract on this team. He's going to be part of our core. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. You do need another option. Thomas, as number one, is not going to win you a championship. But if he has some support with him and he's a supporting piece to that piece, that's how you start building a nucleus right now of what we need to do. And it starts with this draft. So we could find a good lottery pick that you could pair with Thomas. That's something to start with. And it's better than just trading Thomas right now and having to start from scratch for another new guy. I think you need to put those two together so we can build in 2026 for that draft. And then from there, you have something. I think that's the strategy right now. I agree with you that some people did look past Thomas's flaws, but Thomas is improving a little bit, and I'm glad to see that. But I agree with you. Thomas by himself is not going to be the number one guy. He needs help. He definitely does, for sure.
I want to
saying.
tally up on that.
Go ahead.
I want to tally up on that, John. I'm glad you said that because I had a moment of clarity before the game started, but because I looked at that trade and discussion, but then I had to realize that I looked at the D'Angelo Russell trade that we got and discussed, but then I had to realize that it's more than one way to build a roster. It's possible. I think it's fair to say, is it possible? And I'm not asking this in the form of a question, but I think it's say that it's possible that the Nets could probably be building reserves and a bench and everything before they get the core that could actually fit it, before they could get the star that could actually fit it. And I go back to the early 2000s. Maybe those pieces that they drafted when they got guys like Kenyon Martin and Kerry Kittles and Keith Van Horn and Richard Jefferson. Maybe it was just to fit somebody that could form it all together. Here comes Jason Kidd, take them straight to the finals 2 years in a row. Maybe it's somebody that could come in and fit that court. And I think that's what we were trying to do back when we got Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. I think that's what we were trying to do. Just to have two stars to just plug in and just fit everything that we were doing. Now, listen. Now about the James Harden trade that we made to get James Harden, I'm doing that trade 9 times out of 10. I'm doing that trade 9 times out of 10. I understand, and I understand people why they don't, because it didn't end up in a championship. But I think with the way that we are building this, and I think this is somewhat of a habit towards successful Nets teams. They build from the bottom. They build everything from the grit in the bottom in the bench area up, and then they go get the pieces to fit it later, the star pieces to fit it later. That might be what we're seeing, and that might be a reason why a top 5 pick in this draft is not being heavily sought after by this team the way that they're playing, because Jordi Fernandez, he won't allow this team to just quit, and he won't allow this team to just roll over. A lot of guys on that roster, they believe in what he's saying, they believe in what he's doing. They just don't have the elite talent to get him there.
Right. And I think all in all, from top to bottom, right now, when you look at like from 1 to 10 or however it is, our 1 to 10 ain't good. We more like from 6 to 10. We got guys that could plug in from 4 to 10, from the number 4 option to the number 10 option. We just need 3 guys, maybe 2, to make sure this thing works and turn this thing into something that could be taken seriously. Cam Thomas is nowhere near that. I don't give a damn about the numbers. Stop telling me about the numbers. There's been plenty of dudes to put up great numbers on bad teams. Did anybody in here remember the Antonio McDyess years, bro, over in Denver? Yeah, it's
Antonio McDyess.
I want to say we mentioned the trade. I want to get into the trade now. I want to start with the trade. Obviously, it's old news now, but we haven't gotten into it yet. The Nets made a blockbuster trade with the Los Angeles Lakers. They acquired D'Lo, a second-year player, Max Lewis, who's played very little, and 3 second-round picks one in 2027, one in 2030, one in 2031 for DFS and Shake Milton. I will start, and I'll just go around. I got to take from everyone. I like the trade. I think the 3 second-round picks are valuable. I think that you can group them together. You could trade them. You could pick with them. The more important thing was to get off of DFS's contract, because he was not going to opt in. He was gone next year, so you're about to lose him for nothing. Now, he may opt in with the Lakers because it's a much better situation for him, but he wasn't going to stay here. And you bring in a contract in D'Lo that's entirely expiring. It's off the books. So you have 15 or 16 $1 million off the books moving forward to next year. Plus, you bring in a guy, and I know, look, Max Lewis, he hasn't played much. There's a reason why he's in the G League. 6'7", 6'10" wingspan, athletic. He's a defender who apparently can shoot, although I haven't seen him shoot very well. He's apparently a 3-and-D guy with high-level athleticism. And you can see the athleticism. I just haven't seen the shooting yet. So I like the trade. If I'm giving it a grade, I'm actually giving it a B+. I like the trade. I like what we got. And maybe, I'm standing for D'Lo because I like D'Lo. But, look, D'Lo's not – if your goal is to tank, Dorian Finney-Smith is a much better winning piece than D'Lo. And I like D'Lo. But, like I said, final 4 minutes of the game in the playoffs, DFS is on the court for most teams. I don't know if you can say the same about D'Lo. So I like the trade. DFS is a much better winning piece than D'Lo. Plus, we get the picks. Most importantly, we get the money off the books. So that's money we can free up to sign whoever we want to in the offseason. I'm just going to go around. John, let me start with you. Let me get your first reaction to the trade.
Oh man, my reaction. I've been having so many different verbal talks with many people about this deal, and it's funny. Leaf said at the end of that game he felt sick and nauseous. I kind of finally felt like I've breathed a little sigh of relief with this deal because you think about it, there's many ways to look at it. Look at it this. It was a good deal for Brooklyn because they accomplished different things here. You got second round draft picks, you got draft capital, you got an expiring contract in D'Lo, and you got a prospect in Lewis. You got three different things that are important for a rebuild right now, and you mostly have cap space flexibility. That's the reason why this deal was made. I'm a little upset that we didn't really consider a way to get that Memphis first from the Grizzlies. And I know there's a lot of protections on it, stuff like that. But this is why Sean Marks irritates me a bit because it just seems like he's always stuck in his ways. He's so nitpicky about things. And unfortunately, that deal couldn't happen. But pivoting to this deal was good because ultimately it accomplishes cap space and it keeps our options open with how we want to construct this team. And Lewis, like you said, he hasn't gotten a lot of burn, and this could be his real first opportunity to develop, get some actual minutes. And Jordy's showing you reclamation projects what he can do. And ultimately, the goal was to get Doe off this team. He was going to opt out. He wasn't going to stay, so we got rid of a problem. Now, my worry though is this: with D'Lo, I don't know if we could trade him for second-round picks. Apparently, it's like a 60-day potential wait period, and the deadline is going to be past then. So you're either going to keep D'Lo on this team, see what he does, or you buy him out. And if he starts winning you games, you might have to consider that latter because D'Lo, like you said, he's probably not as winning player as Dorian is. D'Lo's still a bucket scorer, man, and if he wants to get a contract next year, he's probably going to have some games where he's going to give you 20-plus effort. And my only worry is how is he going to interact with Jordy's system, given the fact he holds some resentment towards Sean Marks and all that. And Sean Marks, at the end of the day, you had a chance a year ago to trade Doe for first-round draft capital, and it's come down to multiple seconds and a prospect that hasn't really gotten any burn. This is why Sean Marks needs to hit the hell out of the park a grand slam with this Cam Johnson deal. Whether it happens in a week or so, you got to get this deal done and get it done the right way. If Sean Marks fails with this Johnson deal and gets a first and expiring salary, he can't be our GM next year. I mean, you're trying to build this roster the right way, but it just feels like Marks doesn't have a real clarity on where he wants to go. It feels like he wants to be in the middle. He makes moves for a rebuild. He makes moves for this team to win games out of nowhere. I want us to commit to a damn direction by February 6th. And this Johnson deal, it has to really send a message of where we're going with this draft because it's going to tell me a lot on if Sean Marks is serious about building his team up the right way, or he's just waiting for his chance to get another star. So it'll be interesting to see how this all transpires.
John,
I'll give this grade a C+. In fairness, I'll give it a C+.
All right.
Yeah.
LB, I'll move to you. Give me your thoughts on it. Give me a grade on the trade and an explanation for that grade.
I guess you kind of convinced me, Gary, that I need to look at it a little bit differently. Once we started thinking about, well, DFS, he probably will not opt into his next deal. Who knows? Who knows? Because we don't know. I mean, the next year was another about 15 million, and he might be trying to say, well, I'll trade that for 3 years of 10 million. You know what I mean? So we have to figure that out. But I think when I look at it and you're saying, okay, well, he got 3 seconds. We got 3 seconds for him. I just wish they were seconds that came sooner. But other than that, and I don't know about the kid because I haven't seen him play, but I definitely would rather take a chance on him than John Conchar, who really, to me, doesn't belong in the NBA. But that
I agree with you on that. I did not want anything to do with Conchar. I agree with you on that.
Sure don't. I ain't gonna lie to you.
And so with that said, I think that's good. But then also with DFS, and see, with the thing that you were saying that I kind of disagree with is that it matters what team they're on. So I feel like DFS on this team, like as it's presently constructed, probably wouldn't win to too much more. It wouldn't lead to much more winning. But D'Lo on this team with Jordy, it could lead to more winning because when he did have a development type coach like Kenny Atkinson, D'Lo played his best. And then
but he was a kid without an ego who had some trouble, who was trying to outgrow his reputation as a bad locker room guy. He was a different kid than he is.
That's what
it was. He was trying to get some crazy money. He was trying to get some crazy money at the time. That's one of the main reasons why he was balling out.
And he's back to that again. And he's back to that again, where
well,
it's an
I mean, I
expiring
think he
deal.
is, but I think
He's not
he
trying to
is, but
get
I think
crazy money, but he's trying to get a solid deal now. He's
Give
trying
the
to get
I
a
think
solid
give
deal.
the trade a grade.
it's a different.
LBL.
I think six. We talking about a 6 year
I give him a
difference.
B.
From when we
Huh?
had him, when we had him, bro. Like, because I tell this to Nets fans all the time. The best D'Lo you ever seen was in the Nets jersey. It was in the Nets jersey, bro. Like,
Definitely.
you can't tell me nothing. He was an all-star. He was closing games when Karis LeVert went down. We found out later it was a kidney problem. When we traded him. So I mean, the reality is that um the D'Lo that we getting now, bro, it comes in a different circumstance, man. Like, I look at the trade and I think to myself, on one hand, yo, you are dumping the contract and you do get second round picks, which is what we wanted. Yeah, we want second round picks. Great. Let's have that. Let's go find us a Jokic. Why not? Let's go see if we can find a Jokic into one of these drafts. So
Should have
yeah,
got that
let's go
first
see if
in
we can find
Memphis.
Gary, go see if we can find Tom Brady in the second
Hey,
round. Yeah, let's
LBL,
do
what
that.
was your
Why
grade?
not?
LBL, what was your grade
Why
again
not?
for this trade? What was your grade again, LBL, for the trade?
I said I would push it up to a B because, like I said, under the circumstances, he got something for him. And remember, this is a guy who could opt out at the end, and then we would have got nothing for him. So
What's your
That's
grade,
true.
Leaf? What's your grade, Leaf, for this?
My grade is a C, bro. Because the thing
Mm.
is, bro, like the thing is, we want guys to leave any damn way so we can keep signing middle of the pack contracts or whatever to guys. We can keep signing more 1 year deals until we start figure out which little itty bitty pieces that fit with what we're trying to do later. Like, if we find a player that could fit with like a supporting cast, kind of like the one we had when we had Kenny Atkinson and we made the playoffs, then we'll find a fit with that. Because I think that's what we were trying to do when we went after Katie and Kyrie. I think that's what they saw. They saw a good They saw a good young cast. Maybe they could fit with those guys, and then you don't have to play 30 to 35 minutes a game. You could use them young guys. They'd be better off the bench. I mean, there is a future where I see Keon Johnson and everybody that we played in the start lineup outside of the players that we're supposed to get rid of. There's a future where I see them coming in as a second unit and being dominant as a second unit. I see them being as one. I see the team that we got right now, depending on which number one and number two that we get in the future. I see them being one of the best benches in the league if it works properly. I see it, but at the same time, we got to figure out how we gonna get it done, because these years in the NBA go by, and you look up, man. The next thing, Clax is 30, and then Cam Thomas
Right,
is 28, and then
right.
and then Clowney is 25. Then you look up and, like, these dudes ain't young no more. All of a sudden, they ain't
yeah,
young and they ain't cute no more. They ain't babies no more. So then now they ain't all of these years pass and they ain't producing no real high level winning. You got to get rid of them. That's how I
Wait,
see it. So, but
can I can I respond to Leaf real quick, though? That is why with Nick Claxton, why many of us are open to get rid of him, because he hasn't shown the development. You know where he's at. He's mostly a defensive specialist that guards 1 through 4, gives him shot blocking, rebounding. Other than that, if you want him to give you offense, he's rarely going to ever give it to you. Tonight he only had 6 points. He got out rebounded again by the Magic, and they out rebound him again. It's just like with Claxton, he's not offensively going to give you much. And Thomas, we were looking at Claxton maybe as a potential co-star during this rebuild year. And so far, it's really just been Cam Thomas and the vets, with Nick Claxton having spurts. And the funny part is, Claxton's only giving you real offensive spurts against teams that play no defense, like the Pacers and the Bucks. But against teams that play legitimate
well,
defense, Claxton has shown you no evolution, like
my
how to figure
personal
those guys
opinion,
out. And that's what you got to consider. Like, is Claxton a real part of our future?
well, I say it's been the vets and Cam Thomas, because if it's Cam Thomas out there by himself and he got to put up 20 something or 40 something, bro, and the vets ain't out there at all, or if the vets is out there and ain't producing, bro, like a la Cam Johnson with chipping in with 20 something points, a la Dennis Schroeder chipping in with 20 something and 11 assists. That's not a victory. It's just Cam Thomas putting up mad points. We seen it in the Knicks game. We seen it in the other games where he put up a whole bunch of points. This is why I keep telling people what I keep telling people about Cam Thomas. But to get back to the trade, yeah. How about them second round picks? One of them got to be Joker, right? Yeah. Let's go get Joker. Let's go get Tom Brady. Yeah, one of them. Yeah. Why not? Let's get some second round picks. Why the hell not?
Gary, you're mute.
Gary, muted. Gary.
Leave. Let me get on that, right? Because we know that the second round picks have like a very small chance of turning into a good player, right? We get that. But what did you expect to get for Dorian Finney-Smith? Like at this point of his career, him being on an expiring deal, what were your realistic expectations? Like, what did you think you were going to get for him?
A late first round pick. Not 3 seconds. That's for damn sure. In 2027, 2030, and 2031.
But remember,
I'm gonna segue this into my next question. I'll start with you. So last year, it was reported that Dallas was willing to offer a first. The Lakers may have been offering 2 firsts, 2 protected firsts for Dorian Finney-Smith. That was last year. This is this year. My question is, did Sean Marks, who sucks at being a GM, wait too long to get this done? And then, as a result, we've got less value. Leaf, I'll start with you.
Yes, because we all know we all know when it comes to the trading block in the trade market, Sean Marks is pretty much an ostrich with his head in the sand. He's been at trade in terms of trading. He has been a very piss poor to mid and very bad. We all know this. If you don't know, then go look at the Ben Simmons deal. Go look at the KD and Kyrie deals. Oh, look at all of those deals. You basically trade them, and you didn't get no young extreme talent to pair up with Cam Thomas right away out of none of those deals. How come? Because you're not good at trading. You're good at drafting in the middle of the pack. This is why you got late first round picks. Why don't you get more late first round picks so you can stick to what you're good at? Drafting late first round picks. That's what you're good at. That's what you're at least decent at. I mean, hell, you got Cam Thomas. You got Noah Clowney. You got Jalen Wilson. I mean, Cam Thomas is probably the ultimate diamond out of the 3. But they ain't really much of a diamond, bro. Like, if you keep wasting his time with these mediocre rosters, you think he's going to stay here, bro, still waste his years, bro? If I'm Cam Thomas, I'm thinking to myself, how do we win? How do we win as me as the number 1? And guys are still throwing me grenades and looking for me every time I come up the court and be like, yo, bro, hey Cam, you could get us a bucket, bro. We kind of can't do it. So let's go. Yeah. Come on, Cam. You got us right.
Let me get to John on this. John, your thoughts? Did he wait too long? We know allegedly it was rumored that he was offered multiple first-round picks, or at least 1 first-round pick last year for DFS from multiple teams. Did Marks blow this? Did he not get max value for Dorian Finney-Smith?
I already said it, most definitely. I mean, this guy is sometimes he makes these trades where it's like, wow, this guy actually understands. And then next thing you know, he acts like Mr. Magoo. If you guys ever seen that movie, you should. It's a fun spoof. But like seriously, like Marks, he's just such a questionable guy with his decision-making skills. And I also heard last year that OKC was interested in him. They were potentially willing to give you 1 or 2 with Davis Bertans. And apparently Marks might not want the contract. I'm like, forget the freaking contract. You're getting offered draft capital for dough. And OKC needed dough at that time before they went for Alex Caruso. It's like missed opportunities. That's Sean Marks' middle name. Sean Missed Opportunities Marks. Ooh, I just made him famous there. But yeah, like that's a problem. That's a problem with Sean Marks, unfortunately. And I understand this deal. It needs to be done to get off him. And now you move on to Johnson. Now he's saying from NBA Central he wants multiple first-round picks. But the problem's always been this. Every time Marks runs a big game, wanting a big offer back, he rarely gets it, and then he has to lower his offer down. With Johnson, it better not be lower down. Like, if there's a team out there that really wants him, and my deal at the end of the day is a first-round pick and expiring salary, like, say we trade him to the Kings for Trey Lyles, Kevin Huerter, and 1 first, I'll be disappointed with that deal. I'm like, you could got a prospect and a first at least. You take on 2 salaries and a first. I'm just like, wow, Sean, you really don't understand how to negotiate or how to use your political power to get what you want. Like this Johnson deal, to me, is a make or break for him being this GM. If you can't get 2 firsts or a first and a prospect at least, you can't be the GM of this team. If you can't capitalize on one of the best role players available at this deadline, because he really is, he's one of the best besides Kyle Kuzma, it's really Cam Johnson. If you can't maximize full value, how can we ever trust you to rebuild this second iteration of this team with lottery picks? I definitely won't.
Well, before I get to LBL, is there anyone in this room right now that trusts Sean Marks to rebuild this team? Is anyone like, oh yeah, Sean Marks is the right guy for the right guy for the rebuild? Does anyone think that? Speak up now, because I'm curious.
Yeah.
Cricket.
No.
Cricket.
Yeah. All
Cricket.
right. LBL, your thoughts? Marks gets the Dorian Finney-Smith trade done. He gets the contract off the books and brings an expiring deal. Did he wait too long? Did he get lesser value for DFS than, did he not get peak value for DFS?
Yeah. Well, he definitely waited too long, and I know your favorite sport is boxing.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's that same set in disappointment that you have when you have two fighters, like say like Pacquiao and Mayweather. It's like they waited like at least
6
5
years,
years too late to fight. And then when you see it, it's like, oh boy. It's like, if only this could have happened back then. And that's what Nets fans are at. Like, if only this fight would have taken place 5 years, if only this guy would have pulled the trigger when he was supposed to. But also, one thing that Leaf said that really struck me and made me kind of nervous is he pointed out what Mark's superpower is, and it is drafting in the late first round, right? In the late first round, and like from 20 on or whatever, getting Jared Allen, getting Karras, getting all of those guys who followed, right? But my thing is are you really that wishy-washy that you're trying to win, so that you're trying to win enough games so that we end up with like the 15th through 20th pick or something? Is that what your goal is? Like, yeah, we have 34 wins. We didn't make the play-in, but hey, we got I know who's the best 20th player in this draft. Damn it. Is that what he's doing? Because it makes it look like that. And that kind of makes me nervous. That kind of makes me nervous for him, because it's like, man, he definitely didn't pull the trigger when he had to. And it seems like he's still trying to appease, like he's not willing. I'm not saying that he has to say he's tanking, but I mean, you could definitely give us better signs. This is like the worst tank job I've ever seen.
Yo, seriously, hey, guys, add what you're saying, because I really don't know what the direction is. I feel like we've talked so many great scenarios on how this team could get to June on a great high, but it just feels like Sean Marks is making the road so damn hard when he doesn't have to. I mean, why are you allowing the vets to stay on as long as they are and win you games? Why are you allowing all these offers to pass you by, and then you sell these guys for dollars on the penny? It's like, Sean, we get you great at drafting, but just like LBL said, you really think you're better than the draft? You think that you could just keep getting people in the top 20? Forget about lottery. I have a record. I've drafted Claxtons and Thomases. I didn't win a championship, get to the NBA Finals, but I know how to draft, diamonds in the rough. We don't need diamonds in the rough anymore. We need an actual legit diamond that can be a forefront of this team, that can get you to an Eastern Conference Finals or Finals eventually. And if Marks is okay with what he wants to do, how can we ever trust an egotistical person like that, or a narcissist?
Let me ask this question. I want to go around. Let me ask this question. All right, he brought back D'Lo. Every Net fan loved that 18-19 team that went 42-40 and lost in 5 to Philly. Everyone loves that team, right? He brought back a guy from that in a tank season. Was it a smart business move to bring him back, and maybe you get a couple fans back in the building before his contract comes off the books, and you free up that space? I mean, is it a good business move?
No.
Does it sell some more tickets, some more jerseys to bring D'Lo back?
Not at all. Not at all.
Go ahead.
No, that's it. That's it. It isn't.
No.
D'Lo wasn't that popular. When you really think about it, he really wasn't that popular. But it doesn't do anything for that. A lot of people still hate him for that with Nick Young. So like he's a good target, but I don't think that anyone will ever come back. Like I like D'Lo. I don't have anything against him other than he needs to try harder on defense. But but other than that, it's not a good deal. It's not anything that'll bring people back. The Spencer one, as we saw before, the Spencer one went bad when he came back and he started pouting and everything. And then he turned to some whole different narrative to try to save face. But it's like, no, it's just a bad deal for him. That's it.
John, same question to you. Does it make business sense to bring in D'Lo on a tanking season? You're not selling tickets. You can go on Game Time and buy tickets for like $7. Does it make sense? Will it help sell a couple more jerseys and a couple more tickets to bring D'Lo back?
In my best Hans voice, D'Lo got to golo. Like seriously, at the end of the day, I don't understand this move. And the biggest question to me with D'Lo is you don't want to buy him out. You really want to bring him back. Like he literally said, I wish Sean Marks was in a jersey when I faced this team, I think last year. Like this guy still has resentment towards him. At the end of the day, like LBL said, he made his bread and butter on this team. He actually became his own star on this team when nobody expected us to do much when we had no draft picks. He literally became his own star. And how did Marks reward him? Hey, D'Lo, it's been fun. You got to go, kid. I got KD on the other line. Like, if I was in his position, I'd be a little pissed off too. I literally helped you build something from scratch, and you want to kick me to the curb the first chance you get. So I thought a buyout would be the next best thing. If you can't trade him, buy him out. Let him sign somewhere else if he still believes he can win on a team. Now you have to go through this process with him on this team, potentially being a headache to Jordy, who's enjoying coaching these guys. You really want, to check in with D'Lo if he's unhappy that he gets benched when he wants to score or play for this team, or maybe doesn't want to be on this team. I don't think he wants to be on this team with Sean Marks still in charge. Like, I feel like this has a chance to lead to some bad publicity. So I hope maybe there's a buyout sooner rather than later because I just feel like we have to go through this headache. I feel like D'Lo's been here, done that. I don't think he's going to sell much tickets right now. Yeah, he's going to sell you off, Gary.
He's not getting bought out.
Gary, he's going to sell you off.
He's not getting bought out. He's not. He's
going
to be.
And if we win extra games because of him, Sean Marks will be fired for that. Because at the end of the day, you're making the path a lot harder than it has to be. He really is. If you can't buy him out,
I got to stop the insanity here. I'm going to get to leave. D'Lo is one of my favorite players. I love that 18-19 teams. You're not winning games because you got D'Lo. We're spending 10 minutes talking about how he's not that good of a player. Now he's going to start winning you games single-handed. Like he's going to have one game against Washington in February where he scores 40 and we win. And everyone's going to be oohing and on. It's D'Lo. Like he's not a great player. He's not a winning player.
And what if teams? Gary, and what if teams rest their stars like the Bucks did with Giannis and Dame and D'Lo and Thomas dropping 50 points? Like that could happen too with some teams. What's funny?
They take the day off. They take the day off. We're going to win the game, but we're not going to go beat teams. We're not going to go win on a winning streak because we added D'Angelo freaking Russell. Leaf, let me get to you. Let me ask you the same question. I think it makes a little bit of business sense. I don't think D'Lo is going to win you a bunch of games, but he may sell a couple of tickets. He may sell a couple of jerseys. Do you think that bringing D'Lo back at least makes business sense for the Brooklyn Nets? Is he not there?
Yeah, maybe he stepped away.
He stepped away.
Yeah.
I wanted to say something. I wanted to say something else, and it had something to do with Leaf. And now I'm going to say that because I kind of lean more towards John, and I say that if D'Lo gets more of the minutes that Simmons would have gotten, we're going to win some of those games. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying like he's an all-star, he's D'Lo from 2019, but what I am saying, anytime that you have a team where you have, and it depends on how long we wait with Cam Johnson, because anytime you have a team where three guys can potentially go for 20 or more, then actually beat some of these teams, and especially if you have a good coach. But I wanted to.
Let me. I got to push back on that. D'Lo in his prime was asked to be the best player on his team and to win games. That was with Golden State. They were the worst team in the league with him as their best player. Now all of a sudden he's going to start winning games. DFS is a much more valuable piece than D'Lo. Like
Gary, I think where you're
like D'Lo's pushing you.
Gary, I think we are missing here is the fact with NBA ratings being down is because a lot of these teams are thinking a lot about the playoffs. They're trying to get, some games where they just rest their guys for no reason. It's like a bait and trap for the Nets because at the end of the day, if the Nets want to win those games and these teams are intentionally sitting their stars down, a D'Lo and Thomas combo can get you an easy 50 at least. And if that 50 is better than whatever that supporting team has when their stars aren't playing, that's when you put yourself in a sticky situation like me and LBO alluded to. We don't want that.
They're going to get you 50. They're going to get how much is a D'Lo and Cam Thomas backcourt going to let the other teams
They're both competing for contracts too, Gary. You got to remember this too. At the end of the day, it's a business too.
If you're getting 50, you better get 60 because the other teams are going to get 50.
But Gary, you think D'Lo cares about the tank right now? He cares about getting his damn money. It's definitely not going to be from us. So he's probably going to play his ass off when he gets the minutes.
Any player on the team that wants to tank? Do you think there's one guy on the Brooklyn Nets that say, you know what, I'm going to play really bad?
Nobody wants to
play. Okay.
Yeah. No.
That was supposed to be the strategy for this year, and now you have this D'Lo wrench, which could potentially throw you off with a few wins. Gary, it's all me and LB are saying.
I was 7 minutes away in today's game from calling off the tank and saying, let's go for the playoffs. I was 7 minutes away. I saw the final 7 minutes of that game.
Thank gosh we didn't watch the game.
Hey, you know what? But you know what? I wanted to add something to what Leaf was saying because the history is the remembrance of the history is a little bit different than what I remember. I'm talking about because we did have a star player in Marbury, and we could say what we want, but Marbury, he might have been selfish and all of that stuff and immature, but he was an all-star. He was an all-star for us, right? For the New Jersey Nets. So, and he was still a top player. That's why you were able to trade him straight up for Jason Kidd, right? And Jason Kidd, if anything, was the guy that had like the questionable behavior with whatever was going on,
Well, he had DWI, he got hitting his wife. It was a bunch of stuff.
All of that stuff. But so we got him probably on a cheaper because of that. But what I am saying is the thing that Leaf forgot to mention was when he was saying we got the role players first. And I'm thinking, who is he thinking about? Lucius Harris or someone like that? And I'm like thinking, as we got, when we got Kidd, remember, those three guys didn't get drafted until Kidd came. Jefferson, Collins, and Armstrong, right? They came that same year.
Came too. I forget. One of them was taken in the second round. They got the 3 picks.
I think Scalabrini was the second.
Okay, that might have been.
So that came the same year. They came the same year as Jason Kidd. Yep. And then and the other thing that I want to point out is we already had, he mentioned Kenyon Martin, but he didn't mention where Keith Van Horn was drafted, number 2. He didn't mention where and that was 97, right? So look, you got 96, Kittles is number 8. You got 97, Van Horn. Then you got 2000 is
but go back a minute. Do you remember who they drafted in 95 and 96?
I remember who they drafted. Ed O'Bannon. Ed O'Bannon, right? In 95.
And Iguodala in 94.
Yes. And what's his name called him?
The 2 worst players in the history of the NBA, arguably.
Yes. and I remember Kenny Anderson said Stinkadari, right?
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is when you really look at that team, that first finals team, when you look at they have Kidd, who but that's 4 of their 5 guys were top 10 draft picks, right? You got Kidd and Kittles, you got Van Horn and Kenyon. Those are all of them were top 10 draft picks. Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. That's the foundation of most teams that win. Like you may be able to say, well, Cap, maybe.
Yeah, but Van Horn was. I don't like to call people a bust. Keith Van Horn sucked. Like I hated Van Horn. He was such a waste. He would be better in today's game. Like he played a 5.
Oh, he'd be great in today's game.
Yeah, but he was not good. I couldn't stand Van Horn.
But he still wasn't. He was soft. Basically, he was soft, but
he was in a rough and tumble era, he was soft.
Yeah, and and he still averaged 22 a couple of seasons,
He
right?
did. He had his first 2 years with the Nets.
And
He could score. Jason
so
Williams called him the franchise. Yeah.
yeah, so but what I'm saying is with that, so when I'm looking at these teams and people are saying, well, yeah, you really don't need lottery picks, and I'm like, well, we needed all of those guys. You know what I mean? To be good. And that's what I'm saying. When you look at most teams, most of their starters, probably half of their starters are lottery picks. And then the other ones, wherever they come from. But that's what I'm saying. So it's like, that's what I don't understand when people keep saying. And then I wanted to add that also because of the Van Horn thing. This is the thing. Now, remember, Keith Van Horn may have had fans in New Jersey, right? I mean, who knows? But he might have had fans in
I
New
wasn't
Jersey.
one of them. I was
No, but
excited
listen,
when they got him,
but
and then
listen.
2 years later, couldn't stand it.
But listen, but remember, when he came to the Nets, we won, right? Like when Kidd came to the Nets, we made the big trade. We won, right?
Mhm.
Richard Jefferson was coming off the bench. He was a sixth man. And then we said, you know what? We don't really need Van Horn anymore because Jefferson could slide into his spot, right?
Remember Jefferson? This is what I want to say about who couldn't shoot a lick at that particular time. Remember,
Yes.
They called him Efferson. There ain't no J in Jefferson,
Yes.
right? I know later he became a shooter. Couldn't shoot at all. He came in and they got rid of Van Horn and replaced him with Richard Jefferson and became a better team. That's how bad Keith Van Horn was that he got replaced by nobody and was better.
But this is my point. And Jefferson was like he was like a near all-star. He wasn't an all-star, but he was like a near all-star. He turned himself into a great player because he was like one of those guys who was a great athlete that had to become a better basketball player. But my point is, just like the way Van Horn came in, he was the man. He was the man when we were losing, right? Like what you just said about Jason Williams saying about him. But then once we got Steph was probably like a bully to him. And so he's like, man, this weak guy, I can't play with him, right? So then they traded for Kidd. Kidd played with him for the 1 year. And then we traded him. But here's what I'm saying. I look at Keith Van Horn being the leading scorer on the Nets and being the semi-star of the Nets. That's how I look at Cam Thomas. And that's what I think that will be interesting to see if the stands, as Leaf is calling them, can they live with the fact that whoever we may draft has to be a better player than Cam Thomas. And that's what the key is, because even when we were drafting those guys, like when we drafted Kenyon had to be better. He was the number one pick. He had to be better than Keith Van Horn, or else we were just spinning our wheels. We weren't doing anything, right?
Well, I like what they had. Them at the 3 and the 4. That was good height.
But that's what I'm saying. But
Kenyon couldn't shoot, and he wasn't a great scorer. Van Horn was. Van Horn was soft as Starman. Kenyon Martin was tough as nails. Like I thought they complemented each other well for what they had. And then you had Todd McCullough, and then at the 5, which is like McCullough. They kept telling me he had good hands. Okay, great. He's got good hands, and he can catch Jason Kidd's passes, but he can't do anything else, man. But I want to segue back. I want to segue back to the trade and D'Angelo Russell before we get too far into the weeds. John, I'll start with you. What is D'Angelo Russell's role on the Nets? Obviously, he's a point guard. Is he going to be the starting point guard? He was coming off the bench for LA. He didn't like that. He didn't really gel in JJ's offense. What is his role with the Brooklyn Nets starting whenever he gets here?
That's a very interesting, tough question for Coach Jordy to figure out, right? Because now he has to go like, hey, what am I going to do with D'Lo now? I mean, at the end of the day, depending on what happens with Johnson, right now, you have Johnson, Thomas, Claxton, Clowney, and Ben in your starting lineup. But at the end of the day, are you going to start D'Lo over Simmons? Or are you going to put Simmons back on the bench? Feels like it really comes down between those two guys, because Clowney's kind of asserting himself now as a power forward. Claxton, he's back starting. Thomas is your 2. I feel like right now it's a battle between D'Lo and Simmons on who should start and who should play off the bench. They might just go safe with D'Lo off the bench right now just because he's just coming to the team. unless he gets bought out or something like that. But yeah, I think D'Lo is probably going to come off the bench. And I think somebody just said, let him be a sixth man. Okay, I don't know what that's really going to do for him or for his team. But at the end of the day, if he could just contribute and get his value up for himself, I guess he'll be happy with that at the end of the day. But it'll be interesting to see what happens there. I mean, if you trade Johnson soon, you could start D'Lo, Simmons, and Thomas in your starting lineup if you want. But it's really going to depend on what happens with Johnson, I think. I think until Johnson's traded, D'Lo's probably going to come off the bench, or maybe he'll sub out with Simmons and they'll do a rotating thing like that. But I think that's where D'Lo's current value is at right now.
LBL, same question to you. D'Lo,
I can't
didn't like coming off the bench. Wasn't happy about it. Is he coming up?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I can't imagine. I can't imagine a world where we're gonna have D'Lo not start, and we're still gonna go with Simmons because Simmons has been horrible. He's been horrible as a net. I mean, if anything, I know that everyone is saying, well, he's playing better now, and we're hearing all these things about, well, the Nets are not done. There've been all these Sean Marks inspired articles about how they might still have interest in him, but beyond this year. But I'm saying now, if you want to tank, if you really want to tank, you're going to play D'Lo and Simmons together in the backcourt. That'll probably ruin Cam Thomas's thing. But I think that the best, if Jordy is interested in really trying to win, which he might be, even though management might not be, I think you go with D'Lo and Cam Thomas in the backcourt. I think you go with both of them. It's going to be horribly defensively, but hey, it is what it is. At least because people don't want to, part of the reason is, we got to see some offensive basketball. This is an offensive.
We can't score 100 points. We can barely score 100 points. We need Jalen Wilson to score 100
in the lineup. That's why I think you need D'Lo in the lineup, because we know that he can score 20 points if given the opportunity on a team that's not interested in making the playoffs.
So LBL, let me ask this question. Starting whenever D'Lo gets here, what would you say is the starting lineup? Not what you would make it. What do you think Jordy's starting lineup is going to be?
Oh boy, yeah. Well, I'm hoping. Well, I know what you said. Yeah, don't tell me what you hope. Tell me what you think.
Yeah.
It's a hard guy to read, because I don't know if he's gonna punk out and put D'Lo on the bench, like start out as a sixth man. Like I feel like there might be some validity to that, but I would say it has to be Cam Thomas. Like you're saying, everyone's back and healthy. It's got to be D'Lo, Cam Thomas. It's got to be Wilson if Johnson is gone, Johnson if he's still there, and then,
let's assume that he's going to be there. We're going to get to that. That's my next question.
Okay,
so let's say Cam's still there. Let's assume
it's Cam Clowney. It's Cam Clowney and Claxton up front.
Yeah,
right.
That's probably it.
And then it's Cam Thomas and D'Lo.
Yeah, I think we all agree on that. So it would be D'Lo, Cam, Ben goes back to the bench. It's D'Lo, Cam, and then CJ, Noah, and Clax. Is that we all agree on that?
I mean, if you want a tanking product that works with your backcourt, but I think down in the dunk, I want to give him some credit. He brought up a good thing, saying that Simmons and Thomas kind of work with each other. Simmons knows how to find Thomas for all of his shots. With D'Lo, he's more of a scorer than he is a playmaker. So I don't know how that's going to affect Thomas's development if he's playing with D'Lo, because I don't think D'Lo is going to find him for all of his shots the way Simmons can. I can't believe I'm standing up for Ben Simmons, but I think Darren Duncan made a valid point. And Jordy, he's shown you that he doesn't make erratic decisions. He looks at adjustment decisions. And if he feels like Simmons hasn't adjusted since he's got to know him so far this season, maybe he'll do something like LBL says and put him back on the bench and start D'Lo. But I think it's a little too early. I think D'Lo has to earn Jordy's trust. I know that's crazy because, D'Lo's a vet now, but at the end of the day, Jordy doesn't know him. And Jordy doesn't know him as well, so they have to figure each other out. And I think he's going to start off the bench. It would be wild if he just makes that decision like that, because I think Jordy doesn't make erratic decisions like that. But It could go either way. I think that's where it's really come down to who's going to start and come off the bench between Simmons and D'Lo. I'm
Hey,
fine
quick
with either
question.
one at this point.
Hey, Gary, quick question.
Yes.
Before this season started, I just want an honest answer. Before this season started, who would you have rated higher as a player? D'Lo or Dennis?
Schroeder
Yeah.
or D-Lo?
Yeah.
D-Lo.
Exactly. And so it's
Yeah.
amazing to me that now everyone is like, they're forgetting who D'Lo was, because D'Lo is a good passer. He,
I used to rate D'Lo pretty high. I remember before his second year, a friend of mine's like, "Hey, who would you rather have, D'Lo or Ja?" I was like, "Oh, that's close." But just for this year, I was like, probably D'Lo, right? And obviously that aged horribly, like that's a horrible take in retrospect. But like I used to rate D'Lo pretty high. So yeah, I get what you're saying. Like, but he's not that guy anymore. He's not that player anymore.
But and see, my point is, you could be right, and I'm not saying that you're wrong. But what I'm saying is, a lot of times it's hard to judge based on the team that he just came from, because that's a mess out there. Whenever you have LeBron, the coach is always like, you don't have the ball in your hands anymore, and you're just a shooter now, and blah blah blah, and and as soon as you lose, they blame every game on you. So because the same thing happened to Schroeder, right? Schroeder had to build back up his reputation after the
Right.
Lakers. And it's like, so it seems like that's like a theme ever since LeBron got there. Even a guy like we played tonight, KD, remember?
Yeah.
He had to win. He had to win in Denver, right? To get back up. And he won 2 titles, right? Didn't he win with the Lakers?
Who again?
Pope.
Oh, KCP?
KCP?
Yeah,
Didn't
he won
win with
Yeah,
the-
yeah, he was there. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And then the
you're right.
next year-
Yeah, you're right. He's got 2. Yeah.
And then the next year he was on the outs, and they're like, "Oh, he's the worst player ever," right? And then he
Yeah,
had
he
to
went
build
to
up his
Denver.
reputation. So it's like that's what
Yeah.
they do in LA. So
I want to get to this next question, John, and I'll start with you because you are the trade guru.
Mhm.
It's been reported Cam Johnson first came out of the game with a hip injury, which I didn't notice. Did you notice it? And it's reported that they're in serious trade discussions. Is Cam Johnson going to be here beyond the next couple of days? Is he going to make it through the day? Is he going to make it through the new year?
Is he going to make it to the Happy New Year? Is he going to make it to the New Year?
Has Cam Johnson played his last game as a net? I'll ask that question.
I think there's definitely a chance right now, given the fact that he got removed under these circumstances. And now it feels like we're really rolling the ball here. And at the end of the day, Johnson is our big trade asset. He's been phenomenal this season. 51% from field goal, 47 from three. He's been on a great pace. He can help a team right now that's contending have a crack at a championship as a final piece. And I think that's what negotiating power we have right now. And looking at the landscape, I feel like we could rule out a few teams. We already did business with the Warriors. They seem to be set on getting a star. We tried to do business with Memphis with Doe. That didn't work. So I don't expect a Johnson deal to be as a backtrack because that didn't work out. I got a few teams in mind. Magic I had in mind, but the way they're playing with all the injuries, I don't think they need Johnson right now. And I don't think they're going to go for him unless they want to make that move. So looking at the few teams right now, I look at 3 teams that definitely could make a crack at him. The Kings, they're sinking right now. They need something. I don't know if Johnson fixes their problems, but we've been talking about Devin Carter and a first or 2. Those would have to be on the table considering the fact they're in a sinking vessel at this point, and they need something to give them some type of relief. They're a team to look out for. And I got the 2 main teams right now, Rockets and OKC. Both of those teams have a 3-point percentage shooting problems, and Johnson on either one of those teams makes them better. But it comes down to which one of those 2 teams could outbid the other. And OKC has the inside track. They have the most draft capital in the West. They have a prospect we might or might not want, and they have matching contracts. If they're willing to give you 2 firsts up front, I think that pretty much seals the deal with Johnson. Now with the Rockets, if they want to offer Cam Whitmore and a first, I think that has a little more validity for Brooklyn, because if OKC doesn't want to give you Topic, but they'll give you 2 firsts, it really comes down to does Marks prioritize the 2 firsts, or does he prioritize Cam Whitmore? And maybe he wants a prospect and a first instead of 2 firsts, because we already have a lot of firsts. To have 19 first-round draft picks potentially would be great for us, but if you could get a prospect alongside a first, I think the Rockets deal might be a surprise deal Marks takes if OKC ain't willing to offer a prospect. So those are my 2 main teams right now for Johnson. That's great for us because I hope one of those teams makes an outbid offer, and as I want us to get a solid offer for Johnson. Because if Marks just trades Johnson for first and matching salary, I think that's a failure. I think you have a real chance to have a big trade deadline deal with Johnson. And if it happens sooner rather than later, I'm excited for that. I don't want us to go to the deadline with Johnson still on this team. I feel like his value's hot right now, like we've all been saying for weeks now. Trade him while his value's good. Don't wait for it to sink. And if OKC and the Rockets, one of them makes a bid for him, I think we're set on our march to the draft.
Time out. Hold on.
All right.
The reason why the other 29 teams are not budging on the demands for Cam Johnson is basically for the same reason why they didn't budge for anything on Dennis Schroeder. And I know people are going to give me, it's an expiring contract for somebody that's on a 3-year, $75 million deal. But the reality is that once the production starts to decrease, like it did for Dennis Schroeder, and you got to find a way to work him into a different system. This is what's going to happen. Everybody is of the mindset that you could just plug Cam Johnson in on the Oklahoma City Thunder, and that's going to get them out of the West. Now, they need a lot more. Trust me when I tell you they need a lot more. You could take one look at them and you could say they need a lot more than Cam Johnson.
So about OKC?
Is that, yeah, I'm talking about OKC. What happens is we look at OKC and we see assets that we want, and that we feel like they don't need. We don't know what they need and we don't know what they value. That's the reality of it. Sam Presti has always and will forever always value the draft as long as he's in OKC. You could rebuild. Like the thing is,
we know they need 3-point shooting though. We do know
they do. They have Shea, they got Chet, and they got depth. They just need an extra piece right now.
Listen, and that's fine, but like convincing them that Cam Johnson is that piece is probably one of the most difficult sells, bro. Like that you could ever do, because we convinced the Golden State Warriors that they needed a backup point guard, and now they're struggling because now they got to have Schroeder in the lineup, bro. When they really supposed to have Schroeder coming off the bench for Steph and playing less minutes, and now their problems is probably more immense. They done went down in the standings since the day that we beat them when we came back from that 18-point lead, when we put Cam Thomas on the bench and Schroeder went crazy. So the reality is, bro, like teams look at this and they see these omens, and they look at these as omens, and they see these things happen when you trade somebody that was going off like Schroeder was, and Schroeder was arguably the best player on our team. And now you look at Cam Johnson, and now OKC is basically looking at the Schroeder situation and how he ended up in Golden State, and they looking at it like, how is this supposed to duplicate for us? Just because we need a shooter, bro, he gonna run off the same dribble handoffs here that he ran off with Ben Simmons, and we don't have no legit screen setter still other than Hartenstein. How is that gonna work? So the reality is that with what we get for Cam Johnson is gonna be picks. I highly doubt it's gonna be first round picks this year, and it might be first round picks in 26 and 27, but that's probably the best that we gonna do.
To be honest, I'd rather we have 4 picks already in this class. Get me another pick in 2026. I'd be happy with another pick in 2026. If we can get 2026,
I think that's possible. I think that's possible, but at the same time, I don't think we ought to shrug and discuss ourselves and discuss our faces if it's another late first round pick. Because the first round pick could end up being any first round pick, man. So we gotta wait and see realistically.
Well, for me, I think that you asked the question is, will he be on the team, right? Will you think we'll trade him? And I said, I don't care about what year the pick is. You know what I'm saying? It could be 26. I prefer 26, but it could be 27 because we don't have a pick that year, right? So it could be that. And I don't think I even need that much. I just would rather have expiring contracts because my point is, even though he's giving us the production now, like I feel like we could make up for that production through the young guys that we have. I feel like they won't shoot as well as him probably, but I think that we could see what they're like. They could get the minutes and the reps, and that's what's most important in the developing season. So I'm definitely hoping that by 2025 he's out of here and he goes somewhere and we can get like a 2026 pick or a 2027 pick. And then the other thing is, I would maybe one of you guys notice, but I would like to look at what Cam Johnson's average was before Cam Thomas got hurt and what it is after Cam Thomas was out. Because I feel like there was a big difference. Like
I think
when
I can look that up for you actually.
Okay, because I feel like when Cam was scoring 25 a game and doing all that, remember when we were there, John and we were jumping off the building saying, "Get this guy out of here as soon as possible," even in spring, even in training camp and this and that, right? So, and then we're like, before everyone discovers how much he sucks, then he started hitting shots, and then we're like, wait a minute, he doesn't suck, and almost to the point that now on some of those podcasts that we might see Leaf on later, they're going to be saying, I don't even want to trade Cam. I want to see what he does when he's with Cam. I want to see what Cam Johnson does when he's with Cam Thomas. And I'm like, so you just gonna forget the whole first 15 games? that was also Cam
Basically.
Johnson. So that was also Cam Johnson. So that's what I'm saying. For me, and then Leaf mentioned also about Schroeder, right? But if you really look at it, like if we break this season up into 3 mini parts, in the beginning, Cam Thomas was our best player. Then Dennis Schroeder became our best player. Then now it's Cam Johnson, right? So when you really look at it, it's like they've been taking turns, like at who really had the most output and everything. And I'm just saying, I saw what Cam Johnson and Cam Thomas are together. They're not taking us to the playoffs. So like these guys, they're gonna come on later. Leaf is gonna come on somewhere. Jonathan, Gary, you're gonna come on other people's spots later, and they're gonna say, "Nah, we need to keep Cam Johnson." You see, we almost
then that's where I start to turn into basically my emblem. That's what I start to turn into this, because it's a lot of things that disgust me, bro. Like when we have these conversations, and I feel like I could have this conversation with Dylan, I could have this conversation with Gary, I could have this conversation with the glue guys who I never talk to. But once I start to talk to the delusional side of our fan base, and my blood starts to boil, and the veins in right here start to get going, and then they start to tell me little stuff because they in love with these lovable and likable players that they felt that they starting to fall in love with game after game, day after day, week after week, and they see little things and they see little glimpses of what they can do, and they start to turn it, and they start to think that you can turn all of this shit into diamonds and jewels, and I know that we can't. That's when I start to get frustrated, and I'm gonna go on a podcast to where that's going to be the case. I'm gonna go on it because I support everything that's black and white. No pun intended.
Wait, can I say this? Can I say this one thing to Leaf, though, real quick? I agree with you, Harley. And can I say this about Cam Johnson? He's done an excellent job this season of playing all sides of the fence here. What has he done? I'm loyal to the soil. I care about Brooklyn. I want to be in Brooklyn. Everybody loves him in Brooklyn. But also look at the league right now. Listen, Cam Johnson's playing hard this season, busting his ass. He could be a potential final piece. Johnson has covered all of his bases, making his value the highest it's ever going to be. You would be an absolute fool to not trade him at the deadline before February 6th. You have a golden opportunity. If it happens right before in January, I'm happy about that because you're trading him with his values at the highest. And Riff, that's a good question. Is your trade package realistic? I don't think it is. I think a realistic trade package would be Kenrich Williams, Usman Dieng and 2 firsts. If I'm offered that from OKC, that is a fair deal. You get your last piece, we get our 2 picks, all sides move on.
I
Like to
think
get a
you just
deal
said
done
it
at the end of the
perfectly,
day,
bro.
you gotta stop waiting.
Just to let you know about the Cam Thomas, Cam Johnson question that she was asking me. Without Cam Thomas, since the Cam Thomas injury, he has been averaging close to 20 points, close to 5 rebounds, close 3.5 assists, 49% from the field off of 13 shots, 44% from 3 off of 7 attempts, and 86% from the free throw line. Just over 5 free throws a game, in attempts. That's
What
pretty
was it
good.
before?
Cam
was
is
it
definitely
before?
Cam.
Before that, I will tell you. Hold on. Wait a minute. No. Before that, that would be game 1 through 17. Okay. Before that, that would be Hold on. Let me see what before. Is it popping up? Hold on. Before this, damn, it's not popping up. Hold on.
Let
Here
me
we go.
just say this while you're looking for that. Cam Johnson has played with a lot more confidence, right? And I think a part of that is when you play pickup and you're the best player on your team, you get confidence. I'm going to take these shots, and no one's going to say anything to me because I'm the best player on this team. When you play with people who are better than you, you're a lot more cautious with the shots, right? Like, all right, let me pass this up. I think that's what you're seeing with Cam Johnson now, right? Like, he's kind of the first option, especially when CT was out.
Just to let y'all know, before that, the numbers was pretty looking the same. It's a 19.1 as compared to what 19.8, I guess,
So
like a couple of cents up.
Yeah.
49% from the field, 43% from 3, 90% from the free throw line, just just over 4 rebounds and just under 3 assists. It looked like the same to me.
Yeah, so the stats are pretty similar. Yeah, interesting.
What about the record?
The selling part is not these numbers. The selling part is how these numbers are going to contribute to helping OKC, because these are the people that we're trying to sell. That Cam Johnson is going to help lead them to where further than what they went last year, which is with the second round exit against Dallas, who wound up winning the West. That's what they were trying to sell. And the reason why I'm saying it's a hard sell is because your 20 points per game off of these good splits look very, very different on a plus 500 team. Nonetheless, the number 1 team in the West, and just so happen to be maybe the number 1 team in the league, a la Cleveland. But these are the things that we got to sell Sam Presti on. I don't think Sam Presti is falling for it.
It's not a hard sell.
I don't think it's a hard sell. It's a hard sell if Jonathan keeps asking for multiple firsts. That's a little greedy to me. But
hang on. Oklahoma City has them. And look, if you're getting Oklahoma City's picks, they're going to, as well as I do, for the foreseeable future, OKC's picks are not going to be very good. They're going to be 28, 26, 30. I think they're the best team in basketball, right? So they may not even want all those first rounders because those are guaranteed contracts. They have guaranteed salaries. They may say, we'll give you 2 first, but we want a second back. Now, what they would say is I'm getting a high 2, which is a non-guaranteed spot, non-guaranteed salary, and I'm giving up the guaranteed salary. Yeah. And I'm only trading down a couple of picks. I'm taking a high 2 instead of a low 1. Yeah, that's worth it to me. So I'm going to give you 2 2s. You're 2 1s. You're going to give me back 2 2s, and that's how we're going to work this. So if I don't want to keep the guy, I don't have to keep him. It's not a guaranteed salary, as opposed to if I take him in the first, and I have a ton of firsts, and I have a loaded roster. I'm not the Nets. I can't add all these guys to my roster.
You know what I just remembered when you said that? I just remembered. Didn't they just re-sign Caruso?
I believe so, John.
A multi-year pack.
Yeah. They just re-signed.
That might hurt having to take on Cam also.
Well, here's the thing. OKC's at a crossroads, right? They have over 14 out of 15 players signed under contract. You have a Shea window right now where you're number one and you're beating all these other top teams. The West is so damn competitive, and you're in first place right now. You can't keep doing this draft stuff and trying to keep Shea happy. If you have a chance to win a title right now and a Johnson puts you over, you take the shot. These 2 picks don't matter. For us, it matters because we keep adding onto our stocks and having the most assets in the league. For OKC, it's about winning the chip. And you look at Kenrich Williams and Ousmane Dieng, they're depth pieces, but they're not exactly depth pieces that are going to put you over in a 7-game series. Cam Johnson coming off the bench keeps your offense going and your 3-point scoring alive.
John.
That's why it's not a hard sell on our end, because
John,
we're taking away 2 assets you don't need, building our own future assets, and we're giving you a championship piece right there. It's not a hard sell for my end.
He did perform well in Phoenix's run to the finals. He D'd up well. He shot the ball well. He does have a history, a track record of playing well in the playoffs. He even played well for the Nets in 2023.
Right.
He did.
Good mention.
I don't like the guy, but he did play well. Go ahead, LBL.
Mhm.
Oh no, I was gonna say I don't disagree with John. The only point that I was making is if they know they're gonna have 2 more years after this of Cam Johnson. This is the first year or the second year of his deal?
Second year, I believe. He's got 2 more.
Okay, so they know they're going to have 2 more years of paying him. Plus, they just re-signed Caruso, and Shea's contract is coming up, right? After this year, I think, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But
So they might get into some salary cap thing where, I mean, you're right. If you want to go for the gold, you gotta try to do it.
Right. And you know what the crazy thing is? If it doesn't work out, they're probably going to trade those salaries with the draft picks, go after a star to keep Shea in OKC. Like, that's why it's like a potential win-win for us, because we get our picks, we get to keep building our future for OKC. If the Johnson move doesn't help you, you could potentially use his salary to go after a star to pair with Shea. So actually, we're doing OKC even a bigger favor here. We're giving you an extended window that if this doesn't work out, you still have another opportunity to come back. So
John's a great
I don't think it's a hard sell.
This is why I'm hiring him. When I'm GM of the Nets, I'm hiring John to do him. He's a great salesman, right? Like Cam Johnson is the greatest thing ever. I'm doing you a favor by giving you Cam Johnson.
We are. Listen, his 3-point scoring puts them over the top right now. Is Kendrick Williams and Ousmane Dieng going to win you a title off the bench? No, he's not. Johnson, though, you could start him, you could bench him. He's going to give you an easy 18 if he's healthy and available. Like, that's what puts you over. And OKC right now doesn't have a lot of flaws, but 3-point scoring is one of them. I just feel like they're the number 1 team, but if they are not willing to bite the bait, I think OKC's going to regret it. But let's see what happens.
Gary, the only thing we're missing.
If I was a coach and you said you have 2 guys, who are you playing in the fourth quarter in the final 4 minutes? DFS or Cam Johnson? Without hesitation, I'm playing DFS. That's how I value Cam Johnson. But go ahead, LBL.
Thanks, Gary.
Well, it depends on who you're playing against, because
no, it doesn't. DFS shoots well enough that he's going on the court and Cam's coming out.
Johnson has been in the finals, and he has hit some big shots in a postseason as well. So sometimes you need offense, and because sometimes you need offense, late in series and stuff. But I was gonna say, I know what you meant about DFS. But the other thing I was going to say about John is, he sounds like the only thing he's missing is only in America.
Leaf, Leaf got something on his mind. Yeah, and then I got to wrap it up. Leaf, what's on your mind?
Give me those big shots that Cam Johnson hit in the playoffs.
He wasn't making clutch shots with the game on the line, but he shot the ball. You can pull up the stats. He shot the ball statistically well in that championship run. He wasn't making big shots. They weren't running offense through him in the fourth quarter.
He did. He did, huh? Oh, he did. You sure?
He was a starter on the
what was that, 2021?
Gary, this is why I do the selling, Gary.
I think I'm getting fact checks here.
I'm going to
pull up the stats. Let me pull up the stats.
He looked so good. He looked so good. He made us think that Mikal Bridges was going to be the next Kevin Durant.
No, you know what they said? They said Mikal and Johnson could be the next Tatum and Brown. See, some people actually were saying that. It was crazy. When we beat Boston that one game on Johnson's birthday, they were saying that. This is our Tatum and Brown. Like, yo, get out of here.
This is you know what? I think we got a habit. We have a habit. I'm not going to say it like it's difficult, but we have a very, very bad habit of going way, way off the grid when it comes to certain things. Cam Johnson didn't start going off, bro. Like, didn't start averaging double figures until that Clippers series where he barely averaged 10 points. Before that, bro, the injury bug started to get them, and then he had to get plugged in. When he got plugged into the finals, he had that one highlight where he dunked on PJ Tucker, and that was it. That was it. That was all. Cam Johnson in the playoffs, bro, is lack thereof. I'm not gonna do this. Listen,
but I'm saying we can still get a first for him.
I'm not going to put this out. I'm not going to sell his bugs when I'm trying to trade him. So Leaf is right. Leaf is factually correct. Look at his playoff numbers. They're not as good as I remember them. They're not really spectacular or special at all. He's not wrong about that. You look at his stats. They're not anything special. Like they're ordinary. He's averaging 8 points, 9 points, 12 points, 8 points.
Hey, nice job, Gary. Nice job. Nice job.
The most he ever averaged was 11 in the Western Conference.
Hold on, round. He wasn't carrying Booker.
I thought I would have said
ouch.
In the Milwaukee in the finals he averaged 8.5 on not great shooting. In the conference finals he averaged 10.8. In the semifinals he averaged 4.8. Yeah, he's right. Leaf is 100% correct on that. I misremembered that. I thought he made more shots than that. He really.
This is why I do the cell work, Gary.
There's really nothing there if you look at his playoff stats. Well done, Leaf. Well done. You're right about
that. And this is why I go back to what I initially said. Selling Sam Presti that Cam Johnson, just because of the contract, is 3 years, 70 mil, if I'm not mistaken, 3 years, 75, just because of the contract. And remind you what LB has said, bro. They just signed an extension of OKC in terms of money lined up and what they're about to pay Shea. They might not be able to afford Cam Johnson. They might be under the first apron, and when a team like that, they can't afford to be under no tax apron. Well,
you know what they could do.
LB talked about that. Like they may not be able to keep him. I don't know.
There's a reason why they keep draft picks, John. Trust me when I tell you.
You know what they're going to do with Cam?
That's afraid of that tax apron.
But you know what they're going to do with Cam Johnson? Some of these players, they can attach some picks and go get a star with Shea to keep him in OKC so he doesn't go and sign elsewhere. Like, there's reasons why the move makes sense for both sides. They can win a championship. If they don't, they can trade for a star to win a championship. We get our picks. It's a win for both sides.
You want me to tell you why? The realistic chances that they have of trading for a star is basically the way that they did it when they got Shea. Shea been there for 3 years before he became before he became anything close the first team All NBA. The guy that they really want to continue to go forward with is Chet. It's just Chet got injury issues. That means that they got to crawl back into the draft. That's one of the reasons why they have just as many assets as we do. Because with the market that they're in, and with the ability for them not to go over the tax apron in the CBA, the draft is all that they have. That is their last resort. That's in their back pocket. That's their shotgun. That's their grenade launcher, just in case shit go left. Just in case Shea decide to take his talents elsewhere. Now they got to go back in the draft. They can't afford to go in for it all. The team that they got right now is the team that they're going to have, and they're going to go forward with and see if it works and see if it leads to a championship. If not, we're not giving up none of our future picks. No.
But they have a chance to win right now.
I'll give you the last word. I'll let you rebut, but then I gotta go. I gotta wrap this up.
Leaf. They have a chance to go in right now. If they have 15 picks, what they're doing right now, they're cheating this CBA system, and I give them all the credit in the world. They set themselves up for success right before the CBA hit, like dynamite on the NBA. And at the end of the day, they have a chance now to win a title with fortune on this side, with luck, with resources. If it doesn't work out with adding Johnson, they could trade for a star to keep Shea. Like, at the end of the day, they have more routes to a title getting Johnson than they would if they don't go after somebody right now. Their goal is to win a title this year, not to be like, oh, I got to the playoffs again, I'm a second round exit. No, you have a team right now to win. So if Johnson's a reason to help you, give us those 2 picks, and we'll take back whatever salary you want to give us. Bingo. There you go. At the end of the day, like the goal for right now is to get the best haul you can for Johnson. And if Sean Marks wants to keep his job, you better do everything in his power to get that haul. Let's go, Brooklyn.
All right, I gotta wrap this up, y'all. Appreciate everyone jumping on. Lee,
Thanks.
LBL, John. Till next time. I don't know if we'll be back before the end of the year. We don't have any more games before the end of the year, right? This is it.
We don't have
we
no
might
more
have
games
breaking
until,
news. We might have breaking news.
Maybe we'll
We may
have.
have
Well, we
breaking
had
news.
breaking news until the 31st or to the first of the year. But the only breaking news that we got right now is D'Lo. LB, appreciate the follow, John. Always.
Right.
We got to get on
Fun
one of
show,
the most
man.
diabolical podcasts. The most pro heavy Cam Thomas podcast I ever been on in my entire life, and probably maybe another couple of hours. It's only 8:00, but it's gonna get real nasty. I'm gonna get real pissed off, and everybody knows how it's gonna go. LB, appreciate it. Gary, of
Hey,
course,
guys.
man. I'll be back soon, man. I'll see y'all soon. I think my Packers done. I think we got our ass kicked, man, already, man. So I'm all frustrated. The Nets
I'm
blew
a
a
Jets fan, so
20-something
I
lead.
stopped watting after the 3rd turnover. I was done.
The Jets blew a
I'm done for
20-something
the
lead.
Giants-
season. I'm not
Gary.
watching the last game. I'm done for the season.
Gary.
With the Jets.
Gary, did you hear the Giants lost their 1st-round pick selection or something today? That's wild.
Well, yeah, they want.
I got it.
Again, the players don't want to tank. The players want to win. All right, I gotta go. All right, it's December
All right,
29th from Texas
All right.
to the world. Thank you and God bless.
Peace.